So this week's topic is the versatility of contacts. Basically, we'll see how using contacts really simplifies everything that you do, keeps you informed, helps you share information, and just to really streamline your workflow, okay? So let's hop over to Pipeline as usual. And let me first talk about what contacts are. I'm sure you've seen them and probably most of you have used them already, but they are people that are associated somehow with the transaction, but not a part of your pipeline account or not on your team. So they're here for reference only. It does not give them any access to the account. It really is just for your benefit, and I'll talk about the different benefits in a moment, but for your benefit to see here and then do all the things that we'll talk about, okay? So let's start really quickly by creating a contact. So while I'm on a transaction, the way that I create a contact is to click Add Contact. It will display for me a drop-down of existing roles that have been used before. So I'm going to make this person, let's say, an escrow role, and I'm going to give them maybe, let's say ABC title, and it is Jane Doe, and that bothers me. 1 second. And her email address is jane@abctitle.com. I can give her a phone number. I can give her a fax or other, or really whatever I want to use these fields for. So maybe I'm going to do, right? And same for this one, by the way. I can put the company name. I can put the company name and address. I can use this field broadly for company and address. So I could include that address there if I wanted to. I'm going to leave that blank. And then add that contact. So adding it is super simple when I'm creating one from the start, okay? And there's my new contact that I've added there, Jane Doe. Now, normally, a contact has probably already been used before, so it's simply a matter of selecting that contact. So in most cases, when I'm adding a contact, I can, let's say, this is an escrow officer, and it's Joshua at Fleming Escrow, okay? And add that contact. So really adding a contact is just those 2 clicks. I'm not typing at all. All right. Now, one note about who sees the contacts, because you will have some contacts that you don't want exposed to other people potentially. The system's super smart in recognizing who should see what contacts. And then the way that it does that is if I'm an admin, I can see all the contacts. I should have access to do that. So there's no limitation there. But if I'm an agent and I drop down on this list, let's say I do escrow, it's only going to show me contacts that I've already got access to view via some other transaction. Okay, so that way I'm not being exposed to contacts that I shouldn't have access to view. Alrighty. And one last note about as I'm creating a contact, notice, let's say I were to type, well, this is not that long of a list, so it's not showing me, it's limiting it appropriately, but let's say I had a super long list here to start, so many so that they couldn't all be shown. If I needed to whittle that list down a little further, I can type ahead to whittle that down so that it shows me more relevant results. And also, just like it's doing here, it can decrease the selection so that I've got less to look through. Okay. So if it were, for example, trusted, and I only wanted to see those people at Trusted Escrow Services, I can limit that selection so it makes it easier to find the person. All right. So again, super easy to add those contacts. And one last thing I want to mention about it is the ability to add a note. So let's say I'm adding a contact here. Let me just go back and get this person here. Joshua from Fleming Escrow. For this, on this particular transaction for Joshua, I may need to add a note. For example, you see there, give an example. Oh, sorry. I can't class it down, but let's say I wanted to add, if the person were a referrer or who some referral information, etc. Whatever note that's specific to this transaction and that contact, that's where I would do that. Alrighty. Okay, so that's adding a contact. Next, I wanted to go over the benefits. You know, obviously, like I mentioned, it gives you, when you add a contact to a transaction, it gives you easy access to view those contacts directly here on the transaction, always accessible. I can collapse these if I want to. Let's say I've got a lot of contacts and they are just taking up too much space on my page, and I've got other things obviously that I need to be doing on here. I can collapse those, and then when I need to reference them, I can expand them. Okay, so I've got that ability. One of the biggest benefits of having the contacts on this page is the ability to easily communicate with them. So if I wanted to, let's say, send something to Greg, I could go ahead and initiate an email, drag Greg down to, actually let's do Matt, drag Matt down to the external email addresses area here. Uh-oh, Matt doesn't have an email address, so he does not come. Let's drag Nick, okay? Drag Nick down here, and it automatically enters Nick's email address there. Okay, so I never really need to type his email address or his contact information anymore. And when I say contact information, I mean if I want to share Nick's contact information or any contact information via a message, I can drag to this second orange area that highlights when I drag over here and let go. And that will share that contact's contact information in the message. So that, let's say I've got an inspector and I want to send that information to the buyer or whatever. I can go ahead and drag that information down there and share it easily. I can share multiple contacts. It formats them all nicely. Oh, that's the same one, isn't it? Take Matt, right? So nicely formatted there. So super easy there. And there are other drag and drop features we're not going to go into today because we're just talking about contacts. But if you're ever curious, just you can either drag and give it a try or just feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to let you know. Alrighty, so that is how to share that information. And we encourage you to do that. If you're sending communications to any of your contacts, we encourage you to do it via the transactions, because then that helps maintain that nice audit trail of exactly what has happened with each transaction. Okay, because as you know, all of that, it gets tracked down here, as well as other messaging that comes back and forth, goes through the received emails area. Okay. Another very convenient benefit is the ability to reference your contacts through our message tags. So let me go ahead and clear out this message here just to get some cleanliness. The message tags allow you to use placeholders for information. So if I wanted to, let's say, always send a message to the title company and the title officer for the title company, I can actually reference that specific contact. And the way that I do it is outlined on our help page. If you go to just type in tags to get to our autofill tags page. And at the bottom, this will explain how the autofill tags work. I'm not going to go into detail about that. And feel free to look at our old Pipeline Pro webinar that outlines how these work. But the way to reference the contacts using the autofill tags is what we consider an advanced feature, and that's outlined down here. So it's got the different ways that you can reference the different types of contacts at the bottom of this this article. Okay, and I've got a template here just to show you how it works that uses those contacts that are outlined on that help article. Okay. So again, what it does is it allows you to reference certain types of contacts based on their roles up here in your message template. And just to kind of bring it full circle, you can see how it looks when I preview this message. Actually, let me close here. You can see here our closing is scheduled for close date at this is the code for the escrow company name. I've got all my escrow company contact information there. And I've identified my escrow company up here. Actually, I've got two of them. Let me let go of one of those. With that one, okay? So if I preview this message here, so it's happening at Fleming Escrow. Here's my escrow information, etc. Okay? So very beneficial and time-saving to be able to reference those contacts specifically in different parts of the contacts information in those message templates. And just kind of logistically, all the contact information, of course, is included in your monthly backups. It's included whenever you do a transaction download. Actually, one question we get a lot is whether you should include or add contacts for your buyer and seller, because they're already included, at least their name is already included up here, okay? And that's one area where we do encourage that you put it both in the buyer and seller field, as well as create a contact for them, because of all of the benefits that we just talked about, being able to see all of their contact information here on the page, being able to drag and drop, send them information, use them in message templates, etc. In fact, in that template that we're looking at here, actually, I referenced the buyer name. You know, this is a message in theory that would be going to this buyer, okay? And then lastly, when you do the spreadsheet downloads, so when you're on your transactions page here, your transactions list, I just clicked up here, and you do one of these spreadsheet downloads, it will include the buyer and seller contact information. So that's another reason to store your buyer and seller contacts as contacts, because they will be downloaded when you do that transactions list spreadsheet download. Okay, and what they look like, should have one open here, is over on the right-hand side of your download, you'll see your seller and buyer fields. Okay, if you've got any on the transaction. All right. And that's pretty much it. That's what I've got for today.